Hi, this is Elizabeth Brown, and this is a recording for EDT about digital citizenship. First, let's talk about what digital citizenship is. Just like being a citizen of a country, digital citizenship is like being a citizen or a member of our digital society. So it's participating in online communications, being able to effectively use digital tools such as computers and smartphones and things like that. And today we're going to bring that conversation just a little bit further. We're going to talk about what it means to be a good digital citizen and some of the rules and etiquette for that. We're going to talk about this in three different categories. We're going to talk about legal issues, social issues, and ethical issues. So we're going to start with first legal issues. And by legal issues, what I mean is things that there are laws concerning, things that as a teacher, if you don't do correctly, you have the possibility of being sued or having legal action taken against you. So from dictionary.com, we have a definition of copyright, which is the first term we're going to talk about under the legal issues. And copyright is the legal right granted to an author, a composer, a playwright, a publisher, or a distributor to exclusive publication, production, sale, or distribution of a literary, musical, dramatic, or artistic work. So what does that really mean? So first of all, the laws of copyright were designed to protect the creator of a tangible work. They are there basically to protect anything that's tangible, meaning you have to be able to touch it. So down here I have some examples of tangible. We've got text, whether it's in print and online. Video, same thing. It could be saved to a DVD or it could be put online. An image, it could be a printed out image, it could be one online, choreographed dance, things of that nature, things that you can touch. The creator has the control of those images. They can decide what can happen with their copyrighted work, and they should be compensated if they wish for those copyrighted works. Some people say, well, if I simply give credit, isn't that enough? It's not enough. You can't just give credit. Copyrighted works, many of those people are expecting to be compensated, and we'll talk about that more. It doesn't protect ideas. If your idea is not written down, if it's not a tangible expression, then your idea is not copyrighted. And it doesn't protect facts. So if you are going to write the facts about a certain part of history or something like that, that is not copyrighted, whether it's written down or not. Facts are facts. And the other thing to know is that copyrighted items are copyrighted upon creation. So you can jot something down in your notebook. That is copyrighted. Immediately upon creation, it is copyrighted. So then there's the idea of fair use. And fair use was a law passed to protect the sharing of ideas. So while the Copyright Act was passed to protect creators so that they would create all of these creative works and then share them with everyone, fair use was passed so that people could borrow some of those creative works and use them to create new things. What I'd like you to do is take a minute, pause this video, and go to YouTube, and here's the URL. So hopefully you can copy this down. It's http://www.youtube.com/watch V equals 8TWHKEB dash FUQ. This is a great video. It'll definitely wake you up, and it's all about fair use. When you're done, come back to this. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. So what the video basically said is that there's a few different guidelines for fair use. So when you're deciding that you want to use a copyrighted work as an educator, or really as anyone, you first need to think through, can I use this copyrighted work under the guidelines of fair use? And fair use is contextual. Each case is different. You cannot say that this is definitely fair use and expect that to hold up in a court of law Every judge will decide it differently, um, but these are the guidelines that kind of help you to make that decision. And as you saw in that video, basically one of the main things is to transform whatever the copyrighted work is, to not use it in its exact format. So first consider the purpose of the use. What is the intended use of the copyrighted work? Is it for educational reasons or non-commercial reasons? Then it would more likely be fair use. You might also need it for commercial reasons, and under certain circumstances, that has been shown to be perfectly okay. And then again, we're talking about transformation here. So does the new work transform the creation? Does it make it something different? In that video you watched, you saw that the creator went through, they downloaded pictures from the internet, pictures of people, pictures of musical equipment, and they kind of cut them out. They probably used Photoshop or something like that to do that, cut them out, and then created a whole new scene using those images that looked like a stage. They, took a picture of a woman who had nothing to do with music and threw a guitar in her hand and made her hand move and changed her hairdo around a little bit. And that was a perfect example of transforming a copyrighted work. The second thing to consider is the nature of the copyrighted work. What type of work is it? Is it factual? Factual works are not copyrighted. Does it contain little creative substance? So, a lot of times people will take like a newspaper article that's certainly not creative in any way and kind of cut things out of it and make it look like something. So maybe something like that would be under fair use. The third thing you want to think about is the amount. How much are you intending to use? So for example, there's no textbook for this class, but if I wanted to use a textbook and I didn't make you buy it, but instead I bought one and I photocopied the entire textbook and I gave it to you, that would be violating fair use. However, if I just photocopied a page or two or even just a chapter, that would be okay. So it's the amount you use it. And it even goes so far as to say how often you use that. So once you make a photocopy of a chapter or whatever, you can only use it in one course in one semester. And then the effect on the work's marketability. So just that example I just gave, if I photocopied an entire textbook, that's going to affect the work's marketability because no one's going to buy the textbook. You can get it for free. Okay, so again, consider what impact does it have on the market for the work? Is it a substitute for purchasing the original, or does it negatively affect that market in some way? Okay, so we're moving on from copyright and fair use, and we're going to another legal issue, which is privacy. And so here, we're going to talk about how citizens and children have their own right to privacy. Even students have a right to privacy. And we're in an interesting time because, at least when I went to school, sharing of pictures and things like that wouldn't have been easy. If a teacher I had years ago took pictures of our class, she'd first have to get them printed, and then how would she distribute them? Maybe if she was writing a textbook, she could put them in there, I suppose, but it wasn't so easy to just take a picture on your smartphone and upload it to Facebook. So now we have some issues here with respect to privacy that we maybe didn't have before. And so there's a few different laws we're going to talk about. There's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act, or CIPA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so what I would like you to do now is, again, I want you to pause this presentation and I want you to go over to Moodle. And I'm just going to window over to Moodle myself. And in Moodle, there is a digital citizenship glossary. And if you click on that, the definitions of those laws are in there. And I'd like you to take a minute and go through those and get familiar with them. Okay, welcome back. Hope you took a minute to pause and do that. Now we're going to talk about another legal issue, which is acceptable use. So because of some of these more tenuous situations that schools are having with students and the prevalence of technology, a lot of schools have a code of ethics that they ask their students to sign to say that they're going to use all of this digital equipment in an ethical manner. And that certainly helps if students are signing contracts of that nature. Hopefully parents are also getting involved and at least knowing about those contracts and hopefully signing a contract of their own. And then there's also things like filtering software where schools on the hardware that they're providing, the digital perhaps computers or tablets or whatever they might be providing, they're putting filtering software on those to make sure that they are not going to any appropriate sites or things like that. Okay, piracy is another legal issue, and that's just basically stealing software. So, for example, if I had copies of Microsoft Office and I distributed them to everybody in class, I would be violating piracy. You really should be paying for those. We're moving on now to social issues about digital citizenship, and we're going to talk about the digital divide. This is a term that's used to describe when we have haves and have-nots when it comes to digital technologies. So these haves and have-nots often cross socioeconomic, ethnic, gender, disability, and education. So for example, males may have more access to technology than females. The level of education, if you have students and their parents have gone on to get graduate degrees, chances are they have more access, those students have more access to technology in their home than students whose parents have not. And so these are issues at home. They're also issues at school. And the government has stepped in and provided a discount to schools on the cost of the internet to make up for this. Cyberbullying, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I think you all know what that is. Social, we also have social interaction, and digital footprint is a term that we talk about, and that's really discussing all the things you do online, whether you realize it or not. Even if you do them anonymously, they can be tracked to you in some way, in some form. And you've seen this again and again in the news where people think they've done something anonymously and they get caught. So remind your students that everything they do online is being tracked in some way, and it usually can be tied back to you. And remember that as teachers as well. I've read articles about teachers who have pictures of themselves on Facebook, maybe with a drink in hand. I've heard of one with a gun in hand, and they've had disciplinary action taken against them. We're going to talk about ethical issues. So there's people who think about freedom of speech, believe that's one of the important parts of our Bill of Rights. And they think they can put anything up on the internet, something that we may consider inappropriate content for children. And so we as teachers, do we have a right to protect our children from that? Can we use filtering software? Is that enough to do that? Or do we allow freedom of speech and our children can see anything? So it's a question of right and wrong we have to consider. Again, we talk about privacy. So a lot of schools need to monitor the work of students on digital technology to make sure that they're not accessing anything inappropriate and to keep them safe. And then we also don't like when internet sites monitor our behavior as consumers. Another ethical issue is academic dishonesty. This is the ease and sharing and manipulating of data. And so it's very easy for you to take a prior student's term paper and hand it in as your own. But right now there's a lot of anti-plagiarism software where professors can hand it in to something like a Turnitin, things like that, and make sure that this article hasn't been written by someone else before. And so that's the end of our digital citizenship presentation here. I'd like you to again go back to Moodle, and there is a whole bunch of resources here for you to go through. Here is an article that basically discusses everything in detail, and I think it would be worth reading through. Here's the video you watched. This is some guidelines for copyright, what teachers can and can't do. It's a nice list. Here's a fair use checklist. Again, the digital glossary. And here's some information about how to find copyright-free images and music. Especially for this class, you'll be asked to put things online, and you don't want to be using copyrighted images. So what you want to do is come here, and there's a good few different sites where you can find copyrighted images, and there's a great tutorial about how to use Google to search for images that are copyright-free. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation on digital citizenship. Thank you.